365 Sports.
The Kansas City Chiefs have officially a top 10 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, but who will they pick with it, / what are some targets and positions they're going to go after? That's what we'll get you here today on the Chiefs Report, a part of 365 Sports. I'm Jace Andrews. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and very excited to get this one going because the offseason is officially here. Got all the thoughts collected on what the Chiefs' plan should be, and today we're going to start with the draft because obviously the offseason free agency is exciting, and I'm hopeful the Chiefs can kind of do some things to allow them to have some cap space to go out there and spend. But in all reality, given they have a top 10 pick for the first time, it seems like forever, that is something to be excited about when the season was not exciting. And so we're going to get into that here today on the show. But before we get going, want to remind y'all on YouTube to hit that subscribe button. Over 97% of you who watch these videos aren't subscribed yet, so go down there and hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free to do so. And if you're listed on Apple Music or Spotify, make sure you give the Chiefs Report a bit of a follow right there. That way you get all your Chiefs news all in the pocket and on your hands right there. So very good things to do. So okay, officially the Kansas City Chiefs have the number 9 pick in this year's upcoming NFL Draft, and that is an exciting thing, of course, but having a number 9 pick and having a top 10 pick is always exciting. And obviously it's very much a cool thing when the Chiefs have not exactly had the season you would expect. And in a lot of ways, you would want them to be in the playoffs right now, not having the number 9 pick. But, you know, we take what we can at this point and look to the offseason. And guess what? The Chiefs are going to be able to try and reinforce their offense or defense with that number 9 overall pick, plus potential trades in the draft and so much more they can kind of do with this. But today we're going to focus on the fact and the kind of object thought that they are going to keep that number 9 pick. They're not going to trade it. They're not going to use it in a deal to get somebody or to move it back in the draft, move forward in the draft, and that they are going to keep that number 9 pick. And we are going to give you 4 different targets that Kansas City can pick at that number 9 slot, as that, of course, is what everybody is wondering at this point. What will Kansas City do? Who are they going to go after? What are the positions that they could look for? Well, obviously, we'll have Mel Kiper come out and do mock drafts, and we'll have reports all throughout the offseason, but just kind of, straight off the boat, basically. We're talking it, a couple days after the season concludes. We know the situation with Patrick Mahomes and how he could be readily available for week 1. We know the situation remains kind of uneasy with Travis Kelce and whether or not he's going to retire or if he is going to potentially get to a point where he's going to come back and play, try and give it one more go with Mahomes. We don't really know those things just yet, but we do know with the pick what they can get and some targets they can go after. So without further ado, let's get into the topic of these 4 different targets. And the first guy is an interesting one, but we're looking at David Bailey, an edge from Texas Tech. Now, Bailey had 14.5 sacks for the Red Raiders in 2025. That was, of course, the national lead, or at least tied for that. He's 6'3", 250 pounds, and is kind of a speed rusher with that body weight. Excellent first step, and he's really good at his burst speeds. Now, he's going to be an instant impact guy, and the thing that I like most about him is that he can go to the quarterback and successfully take down the quarterback. We've talked so much about how this season with the Chiefs, they got back there and they were able to take down or get pressure on the quarterback a lot this season. But the problem was that they could never finish. They could never be able to take down the quarterback after getting pressure back there. And David Bailey has done that all season long with the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and of course did it in his time with the Stanford Cardinal as well. This year, of course, is the one you look to: 52 total tackles, having 14.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 passes defended or deflected, whichever way you don't look at that. Through his time at Stanford, he had 7 sacks in 2024, 5 sacks in 2023, and as just a freshman, he had 2.5 sacks. But he had 5 forced fumbles last year with Stanford in 2024. And to me, he provides an instant impact, as I said, where he will come in and immediately affect the game and kind of cause chaos on that edge rushing defensive line. Now, he is a linebacker at heart, so it's going to be a Micah Parsons type edge rusher. Again, that's where you get speed edge rushers, which to me is something that the Chiefs have lacked in their quote-unquote dynasty. It's really a hard thing to see and look back to because Karlaftis is not in most people's definition, a speed rusher. And that's not to say he is not a fast guy and cannot get back to the quarterback, but he is not labeled as a speed rusher in a lot of aspects. But with David Bailey, you get that, and you can kind of play him in a certain like linebacker edge rusher combo. So if you want to drop him back into coverage a little bit, he can do that. If you're able to try and blitz him or use him as that edge rusher, that also can work out. And if Coach Spags is going to remain with the Chiefs, which again, also something that is still remain to be seen. It does, however, on our update on Spags, doesn't seem like he is getting interviewed just yet for any head coaching job, including the Giants, which is the one that kind of suspected most would like to interview him. But either way, David Bailey, if you add him into the Spags defense, becomes a very good and viable option for a bunch of different reasons. Of course, the biggest one being that you combine him with Chris Jones, Karlaftis, and Omar Norman-Lott, and you've got a very good defensive line to come in and not just get pressure on the quarterback next season, but actually make dividends on the pressure that you're putting on the quarterback next season, because that's something that has been a little hard to come by in a lot of lights. Is, this season they had a very high pressure rate and it was top 10 in the NFL. But in terms of sacks, the Chiefs just could not get the quarterback on the ground. And whether that's because of the speed of the defensive line, they were able to get back there, but they just weren't fast enough to corral the quarterback. Or if you just believe it's a differentiation in all the sack, or rather blitz packages, I should say, from Coach Spags, those are both, I think, valid opinions. And I think David Bailey could be a very, very good kind of addition to all this, in addition to the Chiefs defensive line, and in so many aspects make it to where we're not talking next year about the pressure rate. We're talking about the sacks that they're able to corral. So David Bailey is a very good option for me. I think that there is some positives to go with him. And if to play devil's advocate, we could talk about his run defense and that he's not really a good run defender in any sense of the word. In fact, a lot of positions that he was with the Red Raiders, it was a lot of times using blitz. It was kind of predicting pass. And, if it is a run, not allowing him to be the run stopper. But it's been a struggle for him through his college career, both at Stanford and Texas Tech. However, again, I think the big thing is that the run was not the problem in some aspects this year. I mean, to a distance maybe, but in a lot of ways, you're looking at the potential there of the sacks, and that's what you really want. So run defense, not the greatest, but that also can be something that can be worked upon when getting into the NFL. And we heard the whole Jerry Jones, Micah Parsons thing. He wanted run defense, and Micah didn't do that. David Bailey, kind of a similar situation, not to compare him to Micah Parsons, but kind of to put that out there. All right, let's go to the second option on our 4 targets at number 9 for the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is where we go to a wide receiver. And I'm going to explain myself here in a second, but Carnell Tate, a wideout from the Ohio State Buckeyes. Unfortunately, their reign is over after winning the national championship last year. He's a very, very good wide receiver to have. I think at number 9, he might be a bit of an overshoot, but he is very good at using his 6'3" frame as a pretty big target. And I think one thing that he would add to the Chiefs offense is being able to get open at multiple levels. He can be used as an under route guy. He can be used as a mid route guy. He can be used as a deep route guy. And it's something that I think is a very good thing to have, because we know how much the Chiefs have loved speed in their drafts, in their signings. It's just something they've always enjoyed. And again, Carnell Tate, maybe at pick number 9, is a little overreach, but I think he has the wherewithals and the right things that you really would like to have. And again, you can kind of see it on the right there of your screen if you're watching on YouTube. He's able to make 50-50 catches with the 6'3" frame. So he can jump over and get his hands on a ball that some DBs are not going to be able to touch against him. So looking at this past season, his best one, of course, by far with the Buckeyes, 875 yards with 51 receptions. That goes to a 17.2 average, having 9 touchdowns with the Buckeyes, 4 touchdowns in 2024, just 1 in his freshman year back in 2023. But he has had 733 yards in his sophomore season. And still, even in a freshman year where he only had 18 receptions, still reeled in enough for 264 receiving yards. And so I think what you're probably asking is, okay, do the Chiefs really need this? And I'm going to be honest, yes, because we can sit here and we can talk about the Chiefs and their depth chart and say that, okay, well, they had a ton of wide receivers last year, right? Like, they're in a good spot. And to an extent, yes. But if you look at the top 4 or 5 receivers the Chiefs have on this year's, statistics, Travis Kelce could potentially retire, and he's the only one that had more than 600 yards receiving. Hollywood Brown, who was the second best guy, he's a free agent. The potential for him to not return is very much there. We'll keep Rashee Rice. We'll keep Xavier Worthy. Tyquan Thornton is still up in the air. Juju Smith-Schuster is still up in the air. And, you go to the cap space next year, and you see that the three wide receivers they have on their cap are Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and Jalen Royal. So they kind of need to boost up the wide receiver game in one right. And obviously getting a first-round wide receiver would allow you to not worry too much about it in terms of your, free agency. Because the hope, at least in my mind, is that Tyquan Thornton can return to the to the Chiefs. I would love to have him on the team again. I think that would be a very good addition, knowing what we saw from him in this season and being able to build upon that. Plus, again, we talk about the speed factor with everything, and it makes it to where if you can bring back Tyquan Thornton, sign a couple other receivers that don't need to be too much, and add Carnell Tate, that's a really good wide receiver room for Patrick Mahomes to step back into when he returns here for game one, hopefully, of the 2026 NFL season, because he'll have the option to throw to Rashee Rice, who, again, this time won't be suspended for 6 games, and hopefully we'll have no injuries, knock on wood. And then, of course, you'll have the option for Xavier Worthy, who battled injury all this season, and then the potential is there to have this first-round pick in Carnell Tate, along with a very potential breakout guy once again in Tyquan Thornton. Now, of course, that remains to be seen what the tight end picture looks like. Noah Gray is a guy that is kind of underrated just because he's been sitting behind Travis Kelce, but we're going to have a little bit of an option for you to kind of look at the potential of getting a new tight end here in just a moment. But we're going to take a break. Before I go to break, though, I want to ask you a question. Who would you pick at number 9? Is there somebody on your big board that you want the Chiefs to select, that you are downright saying, this is the guy the Chiefs need to go after? Let me know down in the comment section any of your thoughts on that, and I'll be curious what you say. We'll be right back, though, after this break. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every playoff moment feel bigger. DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If a player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code 365Chiefs. That's code 365CHIEFS to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, cdkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Again, thank you to DraftKings for putting the show on the road today. Again, use that code 365 at Chiefs to get your bonus bets. Now, you see on the screen, I mentioned tight end as a potential question mark for the Kansas City Chiefs next season. I think it's very much something that we'll have to be wary of just because of that possibility of the Chiefs losing Travis Kelce. And so I went with the option in this draft that they did lose Travis Kelce, or at least in this target that they did lose Travis Kelce, and that they needed to kind of figure out a way to replace him. And guess what? They have literally the perfect fit for them in Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon that could jump in here and be a fantastic addition. Now, I think this is, again, a very interesting guy because he aligns so much with Travis Kelce. He's very good with his hands, able to kind of reel in catches, kind of similar enough to Kelce. Doesn't have the big body as much as Kelce does, but still's got that height and length that you want. Plus, he can align really anywhere on your formation. His side and speeds. It kind of reminds me of I want to say a mixture of Travis Kelce and what Kyle Pitts is supposed to be / kind of was this year. I'm not going to lie. He actually looked way better than he had in previous years. But overall, Kenyon Sadiq is a guy that I think would be a perfect replacement to Travis Kelce and kind of a passing of the torch vibe. Plus, if you want to look at his blocking totals, we all know how good of a blocker Travis Kelce was throughout his career. Sadiq is the same way. I think he can go up there with the best of the best when it comes to blocking tight ends. And so looking at his stats as a college tight end, it's always hard to kind of judge what they're used for, especially in what is a spread offense for the Oregon Ducks. But still, 863 yards through his 3 collegiate seasons, with most of that coming this year with 531 yards and 46 receptions with 8 touchdowns. He's a lot of what Chiefs fans like in Travis Kelce, kind of re-put in here and then kind of labeled down again, 6'3", 245. So kind of has a little bit of a smaller frame in terms of the size of Kelce, but still has kind of that similar, I guess, aura, standing, wherewithal. I don't know what the best way to put it is, but he has kind of like a mini Kelce type vibe. Again, no one's going to ever replace Travis Kelce. I think that's something that we have to understand, and that is okay. I mean, he's one of, if not the best tight ends of all time. And if he does retire, credit to him for having such a great career. But if you look at the Chiefs end of things and kind of where they stand, we can see that they're in an interesting position because you have only 3 tight ends on your cap space or / roster next season. Jared Wiley, Noah Gray, those are your 2 guys you used. And then Jake Brennenstuhl, who kind of came on late, was on the injury report a couple of times, though. So don't really know what the overarching theme is behind him in terms of what the Chiefs view him as. If he is that 3rd tight end next to Robert Tonyan that we're going to lose this season, or kind of what they kind of think of it. But either way, knowing that you have Noah Gray and Jared Wiley is a comforting factor to some people, but I think at the same time, going from Travis Kelce to Noah Gray, no matter what way you slice it, is going to be a downgrade / a harder thing to corral, rather than maybe going from Travis Kelce to a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, who I think in a lot of ways could come out here and really perform to a level that is pretty good in his rookie season. And you can use him in a lot of different ways. He's a good blocker. There's a lot of things that are very much, positives to him being a 1st-round tight end. And obviously number 9 at the tight end slot is something to, be heralded with. I think the only guy who's really ever warranted that, at least in the past seasons, has been Brock Bowers. Kyle Pitts was a top draft pick. I mean, he hasn't succeeded in the way you'd think. So to me, if Kelce does retire and Sadiq is the guy that the Chiefs do legitimately want to go after, I think in that situation, you probably trade back in the draft. Again, I don't know if that's the full story on that, if you want to trade back, but if he's the guy you want, I don't think you need to spend the number 9 pick on him, but you do have to be wary because you want to make sure you don't lose out on him if that's the guy you're going after. So definitely a potential target there. And then finally, a guy that I've mentioned a lot on this show and will continue to mention all throughout the offseason, it's Jeremiyah Love. The running back out of Notre Dame is a guy that I really, really, really enjoy. I thought he was fantastic with the Fighting Irish, and he was a big part of the offense for this Notre Dame Fighting Irish squad, both last year and this year. And I think in a lot of ways, he's a guy that's comparable to some former top round picks, i.e. Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. And those guys have had fantastic NFL careers up till this point. They still barely have started it. So I think you're going to get a lot of stuff here because you're going to get high end speed, elite contact. He's patient to read his holes throughout. He's a good receiver as well, which is why you get comparisons to Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. And the thought is amongst a lot of NFL scouts and kind of draft scouts is that Jeremiyah Love can step onto the field day one and be a very successful and very prevalent back in whatever backfield he ends up with. In his 3 seasons with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, he's totaled nearly 3,000 yards, has 36 touchdowns with a majority of those coming in the past 2 seasons, 18 touchdowns this year, 17 touchdowns in 2024. And he's just a fantastic runner, a 98-yard rush in 2024, a 94-yard rush in 2025. We all know what he was able to do in the playoff last year. He's a fantastic running back. And out of St. Louis, Missouri, too, it's a guy that, fits with the vibe, fits with the Chiefs' mantra at 6'2", 214. He's the perfect size. The Chiefs kind of have liked their running backs in the past. It fits. It really does. And if you had to ask me right now, if you were asking my opinion as to who I would want for the Chiefs to pick at number 9, it'd be this guy. It'd be Jeremiyah Love. It would be him for so many different reasons. The first one is an obvious one. It's because if you look at their cap space hit next year and you go to running back, you have one on file. You have one on your roster. It's Brashard Smith. He's 23 years old. He was a 5th round, 6th round guy, whatever it was out of SMU. 7th round guy, actually, excuse me. I love Brashard. Don't get me, I'm not trying to sit here and downgrade Brashard Smith. Not at all. But getting Jeremiyah Love, spectacular. And again, we still have NFL free agency. We have so much of the, off season still to go to kind of really tell us what the Chiefs are looking at that number 9 slot. But obviously it's it's a thought that's in Brett Veach's head right now of like, okay, we've got a lot of options here. We can go out and make some moves this offseason for a running back, for a wide receiver, for a tight end, whatever. And then, use that number 9 draft slot to go and get whatever we don't get in the free agency season. / we've got a number 9 pick. If there's a guy we want, we can go up and get him with trades. / if there's a guy we want that is at pick 15, we can trade back a little bit. And I guarantee there'll be people trying to trade up. But again, you got to be careful because not to mention draft day, but you got to make the right decisions when picking and choosing your draft selections and draft choices. And of course, it's going to be an intriguing one for the Kansas City Chiefs. So again, let me know in the comments if you haven't already, who would you pick at number 9? Really do like all of the guys I said. Again, we'll go through them one more time before we let you go. But David Bailey, edge rusher out of Texas Tech, a fantastic person to have in your edge rushing department, a little speed rusher, kind of getting comparisons to that Micah Parsons style vibe linebacker / edge rusher. Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State, really like his speed, really like the ability for him to go up and make the 50-50 catch as well along with that speed. Think he could be a very good addition to a kind of minute Chiefs wide receiver room at this time. Kenyon Sadiq, this is the pick if you're going to go and get somebody if Kelsey retires. I think overall he's a very good fit, and over the tight ends this season, he's going to be by far the top one picked. And then my favorite and the final one, Jeremiyah Love. I mean, he fits so perfectly with the Chiefs, and they need a running back, and it just makes sense to me that I don't know why the Chiefs would think past this, but it's a point to be seen that Brett Veach has his own way to make drafts, and it's worked out pretty well for him. I'll say that. So that's obviously a big thing. That's all we got for you today. We do appreciate you checking out and hanging out with us here on the Chiefs Report Part 365 Sports. Again, use that code 365 Chiefs to get that bonus bet on DraftKings. Really, really excited about this offseason, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for everything we've got coming. But for now, guys, we're going to say peace out. We'll see you next time.
365 Sports.